Tilea's Troubles, Part 140. In Search of Escape. Once mighty, then made small by defeat, he had thrust his way deep into the ground, through ever smaller crevices, down and down, as a means to escape his enemies and yet remain in their world. He had not been ready to leave, to return to the swirling miseries and glories of his own plane. He still desired what this world could give him, but he had tried too quickly to take it and had been defeated by those he yearned to enslave. So, fleeing from them and holding tight to his last possession, he dived through dirt, scrabbled through roots and grit, then slithered between sheets of rock until there was no sound or light from above, and only sharp hardness all around. The deeper he went, the smaller he became, and the closer the spaces he squirmed through. The smaller he became, the simpler his thoughts, until his only urge was to find solitude. When, at last, there was nothing nearby that crawled or wriggled, no roots slowly worming, not even a speck of mould or a drop of water containing the tiniest crumb of life, he stopped and stayed. First he slept, and, fed by that he had brought with him, he grew, although much more slowly than he had shrunk. As he did, his strength returned, and that which he had brought grew weaker, until he was made mighty again, while it had become only slightly brighter than the surrounding stone. When at last he woke, his mind was as quick and cunning as always, so that his first utterance was a curse, for he knew immediately that somewhere in his descending diminishment he had forgotten how this world worked, how pearls were trapped in oysters and nuts were wrapped in shells, how a prisoner in an oubliette could only scratch at the enclosing walls, and a sunken galleon was hard pressed by the weight of the ocean above. He was stuck. His mind raced as he sought a solution, filling with a swirling mass of ideas, yet not a one of them helped. He tried every spell he could, but they proved useless as he broiled, then froze repeatedly. He pushed, plucked and poked at every part of the rock surrounding him, but nothing budged. He philosophised and debated, taking the parts of both questioner and answerer. He considered returning to his own plane, releasing his grip and allowing himself to fall. But he knew, if he did so, he might never find the means to return to this world and so quench his burning thirst. He stayed awake for 100 years, then slept 200 more to see if the mere passage of time might offer an escape. He counted the years, then the months, then the days, then the hours, then every moment. When the numbers became too large, and it was impossible to hold them all, they spilled from his consciousness, taking some of his mind with them. His senses, for want of anything new to sense, first numbed, then fell away, one by one. Hundreds of years passed, with only the same rock to see, illuminated by the dim light of that which he had brought with him, until finally he could not bring himself to look at it, and he forgot his eyes altogether. Smell and taste, never changing, were discarded. The silence lasted so long, he gave up listening, and without moving, he no longer knew there was anything to touch. He was a hair's breadth from becoming entirely empty, a nobody and nothing. Yet, despite neither waking nor sleeping, he dreamed. His mind slipped from him and began to wander. In doing so, it gifted him a different kind of vision, momentary fragments of removed places and beings. He drank these glimpses greedily, ever more quickly, until they swirled furiously, as if he were a scholar reading 1,000 tomes all at once, one word of each in turn. In truth, he may as well have been unconscious, for no sense could be derived from such myriad confusion. Time lost all meaning, as once more he himself was lost. Eventually, by chance, some of the swirling images conjoined. These he held in place, refusing to yield them back to the maelstrom. Time passed, and his collection grew as he found more moments to put together, then more of the same, until they meant something and made sense. Creatures moved through this place and that, spoke to each other, laboured and fought, played and plotted, and he understood. At last, now that his visions were arrayed orderly, he was once again able to stabilise his mind. It was as if he had found himself after a long sojourn. On doing so, he immediately cursed. because the means of escape was now made obvious by the visions, and it had always been available. Others must free him. Allowing the visions to pour through him, he lingered on all those of potential worth, so that he might understand them, and ascertain what exactly they could do to bring about his release. He learned of the world above, that he might be better prepared when he returned to it, and so more able to take it for himself. Incrementally, his visions revealed the best course of action, and in what order things must be done. Unable to reinvigorate the weak, dim lump he had carried with him to his prison, he must obtain another, one replete with power. He recognised what sort of creatures were required, and knew what must be done to make them his instruments. He sought out the likeliest candidates, then folded his visions into their dreams. Not all, but some, relished that which he gifted, and it was these who became his to command, his soon-to-be saviours. He now sees a city, where everyone believes themselves to be a lord or a lady, despite their ragged linens. Rather than gold embroidery, they have only torn, mud-spattered hems. In lieu of love-lock curls, they wear matted, lice-ridden hair, and instead of staffs and canes, they carry brooms and pitchforks. But their pride makes them swagger. Their self-importance induces a willingness to wax lyrical concerning their own wisdom. Somehow, this brings to mind an earlier vision, that of a wizard who bore the same name as his teacher, Toto, a foolish fellow who encouraged the peasants' awkward arrogance, a wizard who sees the world of men upside down, yearning to tip the city over to match that which he imagines, and who refuses to allow the peasants to bow to him, which only makes them more haughty. Above him, but still beneath the world's surface, he sees clawed warriors marching. When he remembers who they are and whom they serve, he smiles. They are his pawns in this game, for their master fawns over him and will do anything to please him, no matter the cost. Another vision, of trees and sparkling moats dancing in the sunlight, where courtly elves forget their painfully cultivated manners in arguments over their beloved forest. One green limb has been poisoned, horrifying them, so now they seek friends outside the forest, despite fearing their prospective allies' greedy intentions for timber and land. Brows are furrowed, as servants ponder what such unwelcome novelties, within and out with, could mean. And here is another elf, who arrives at a stone city, a place where a great masquerade is played daily, a comedy disguised as a tragedy, there to meet with a lord who acts his part on the stage well, emboldened by the applause of his subject audience. The two greet each other as if old friends, while both know that they speak the words of a script authored by others. While on a mountain road, dwarves argue whether men cannot or will not fight. Past failures have become bitter memories, and the mountain of wrongs to be put right grows ever higher. Yet their confidence is stubborn and deep-rooted, and their true grudge is only that they have to do everything themselves. Then again, hidden from the sun, he sees his pawns scuttling en masse, a rushing tide of hateful hunger, whipped into submission and yet ready to claw and bite at anything before them. And in a town overlooking the sea, an addled lord vents his fears and loathing, but few will listen any more, for he brought ruin to both them and himself. His words are old, hateful scripture, which few can bear to hear, for they remember lashings, hangings, and the murdering of their loved ones, and a fury that burned painfully bright until suddenly snuffed out, with nothing to show for it but exhausted regret, the echoes of the ravings of a madman. In another realm, by a burnt orchard, men far from home curse silently because someone else stole what they had stolen themselves. Everything around them had been measured, valued, and recorded in neat ledgers, but an accounting now yields little. Meanwhile, in a mighty city, a proven genius chuckles at the game that has been played, but then grows serious upon turning his attention to the contraption he has been studying, as puzzling as it is ugly. Wheeled and wired, bearing a rotting corpse, its workings are an unfathomable mystery. Can this maestro find out what it was meant to find? And now, another joining, not of visions, but of thoughts. For he himself wonders, at that very same moment, can he find what it was meant to find? Then, at last, he sees those who stand close to what he most wants to see. A hulking, grey-skinned pirate upon a stony beach, framed by a bright blue sky. The sea dog's muttering chatter is like a chorus for the brute captain's growling oratory, their eyes reddened by weariness, exacerbated by the taint of the beautiful stone they are arguing over. He cannot see it, but he knows it is there. Where exactly, he ponders, and will it ever be his?